Hi, I'm Marie.
Hi, I'm Joyce Hazlerig.
And today we have a delightful project for you designed by Joyce of creating these darling little pan people. Joyce,
Excellent.
I love this project so much. You know, I fell in love with them the moment I saw them. But, just share with everyone how you came up with this idea.
So my inspiration for these were just my love of Greek myths, and I like elaborate Waldorf dolls. So that's kind of where these guys came from. I was coming out of a little bit of a slump, and I made them I called them the Rites of Spring, and they were each one individual, and they kind of came from my rereading of the Greek myths. There's a lot of really good kind of retold Greek myth novels that are out there, like Madeline Miller, Circe, and Achilles. I made the first batch in the springtime last year, and that's kind of where they all came from. And they also have a lot of goat influence, being like pan people. So I have my herd of goats, and they also definitely came from inspiration from watching all of my little goats and their antics.
This project has so many possibilities of expression, different colors, different textures, different shapes. And so why don't we spend just a few moments, Joyce, looking at just a few examples of your darling pan people that you brought today.
Right on, thanks. Yeah, so got a lot of different styles of horns. Like I like to call this one the antelope, and then we've got the little ram's horns over here. There's the classic alpine right here. We've got some smaller ones and just the ever so slightly curved ones, more like an Angora goat. So there's a lot of inspiration. These ones are just really cute with their super little cute curly cues up there.
And she's pregnant, which is just darling. So many different skin colors that people can choose from, and they all look fantastic.
I really enjoy the contrast of mixing and matching and getting them to really stand out. And the locks, there's so many different locks. A lot of times the locks will have like sun bleach tips, and you can use that when you're creating them to kind of highlight either their hair or at the base of their legs. So you can use these little tips in different ways.
Now, in this project, Joyce is going to make this little guy right here, who we're calling a ginger, and you'll get to see how to make him. And we do have another video with a variety of hairstyles, and we'll link that up in the info links above. But you're going to see how to build this little being from the armature up, how to give them these cute little poofy legs, and even how to make a stand and some accessories to really give them some personality. Joyce, you have some really nice fibers here for us to choose from. Why don't you talk us through these selections and tell us kind of what they're for?
I like to use a variety of skin tones, and then this is going to be either for hair, or you can use it for horns or for the little stands, and then some locks to also for the hair, and then for the wool fur on their flanks. And I like to do a contrast. So when I do like a light colored skin tone, I like to do a darker, I would maybe choose the dark brown for the wool on the legs and the hair. Or if I did a darker skin tone, I would choose a lighter contrasting like this mohair or the white locks to make it really pop.
Oh, fun. And so this is wool batting you like to use for the skin. So it might be the Maori, the Bergschaft, or MC1.
Those are all good choices. These all felt really well for the body of the pan. You want the wool to felt well and tightly. And then for the hair, you need something a little bit longer. Or for the horns, because you're wrapping the wire, you want something just with a little bit of a longer staple length. Yeah.
Okay. So like this is a New Zealand Corriedale, and the staple length is the length that it comes off the animal.
Yeah. This would make really good horn wrapping. So you could wrap this around as the horn. The horns and hooves typically match, or you could use this as hair even, just because it's a long staple. You could braid it into little braids and use it that way.
Fantastic. And then you chose some other items here that are also sort of in the fiber supply realm. Tell us about those.
So we've got the different colors of locks. Like either all of these could be hair, you use the hair like whole locks for the hair, and then to put it on the little flanks, you spread them out and felt them in that way. And then you could also do, if you make a little female pan, I like to put a little modesty band around their chest, or you could use this to hang little accessories off of their belt area.
Cute.
Or make like little sashes or wreaths. You could do all kinds of stuff.
Darling. These are some fun tools. Joyce, talk us through these.
We're going to use floral wires to make the little body of the person. And you'll use another floral wire when you're building the stand. And one chenille stem, just a portion of it, either for the head, or you could also use it for the horns. I like to put floral tape on the hooves and the horns and the arms, just because it's a little finicky and you want to be able to get that kind of tight. And the floral tape gives you some traction on that. So we'll also be using the multi-tool for making flat little ears and tails. And to make them even flatter, I have this special trick of using a flat iron.
Super cute.
Yeah. And our glue and power wax, or we'll use this cold wax or tacky glue on the horns and the hooves to make them slightly harder and give them a little bit of a different texture than the rest of the project. And then the glue gun comes in when we build the base, and we'll use that to put our foliage around the base.
Okay. And so we said an awl or a small drill for building the stands? For
building the stands, you just need to put a hole, like either 1 or 2 holes to build your little stand. Okay. And you'll use the 3rd floral wire for that.
All right. So then you'll want a felting mat. We brought in the toppers for the ears and the tails. And then you like to use medium needles, I think,
I use like a medium 38 needle when I'm doing like the head and the legs, and the pen tool comes in really handy when you're trying to attach the locks on the hair. The multi-tool is really good when you're doing the flat ears and tail. So just use a variety of needles, and maybe a strong 36 needle when you're doing, if you have stubborn locks or for the hair.
Okay, Joyce, I have to confess, this is probably my favorite supply section. What do you got here?
So I have bur oak acorn husks, or acorn tops. So this is from the bur oak. This is what they look like when they have their little acorn in them. And I have been lucky enough to have some that are really, really big. And then usually they're not quite this big, but you can use almost any size. So I just put a little hole in them, or you can drill a little hole in them or do it with an awl. And then putting the floral wire up, we're going to wrap the floral wire in some wool and fiber. And then you just build like a little vine coming up to hold your little pan person in place.
Cute. But not, so, you and I are lucky. So we have bur oaks in our lives. So, but if people don't, there's some other options.
There are other options. So you can use one of these really cool wood discs to build like a whole little scene. You could put little acorns, some sphagnum moss, even like little ribbons or any kind of little things that you have. This one's a little tiny piece of birch that I drilled a little hole into, and that will become a stand. You could even stack them into, make a whole little kind of step down.
Cute.
So there's a lot of different things. You don't need, if you can't find the bur oak acorns, there's other options for you. And then we've got some accessories. So these are like just little charm jars and little tiny shells. These little pan pipes, I'm going to show you how to make them out of bamboo skewers, and then it's just some keys that look cute hanging off of belts and things.
Darling. And then you brought some pens, so maybe for building our pan pipes.
Yeah, so this one is how it's not colored yet. And then this one I painted it or colored it with the Sharpie, and then put the little dots for the holes to make it look a little hollow.
I can hardly wait.
So
let's
cute.
Make some.
So the first thing we're going to do is find the center of our wire, and we're going to cut our floral wire in half, and we're going to cut both of them in half, and we're going to use about 3/4 of it. So we're going to set one aside, and this will become part of your horn area. And then got some pipe cleaner, and I just use a little bit of this for the head.
Thank you.
These little guys, I just make a simple X. So I'm going to kind of start high up, so like about 3/4 of the way up. So I'm just going to flatten these out a little bit, I'm going to start by just twisting about, 2 to 3 inches, probably no more than that. Keep in mind that these are going to be your arms. So when you put your arms down to approximately the middle of the thigh area, you want them to not be too long. Otherwise, you'll get ridiculously long arms. So we have our simple little X, and we're going to take our other piece of wire right here. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to just flatten out that little curve. When we twist these all together, we're going to make our little feet will end in 2 little end wires, which will become our cloven hooves. And I leave like about 1/2 inch down there for that. And of course, when you twist, you just want to make sure that you're twisting the wire together and not wrapping it around. And then just make sure that they are the same length approximately. And then I'm going to put my little bend in there. So I'm going to bend the legs into position so that they start to take on their little goatee form. So this wire, the chenille wire, will become our little bit of our head wire. Cut off this little bit of extra. So at this point, I'm going to use some of the remaining floral wire and just take about 3 inches, and this will become our horns. So the horns go through the head loop, come back around. I'm holding onto it and pulling it through. And that's all I do to just kind of keep it on there, because we're going to put floral tape on it right now. You can decide the shape later, of their final shape, after they're wrapped. So we just want them to stick straight up so that we can work with them. And of course, if they were even, that would help. So they look like they have a little antennae sticking straight out right now.
Super cute.
And we're going to now put the floral tape on things. So just take a little bit of floral tape. We'll do the horns first. I'm just going to run this little piece through. And then we just pull, wrap, pull, wrap.
Yeah, that's the secret floral tape, right? If you stretch it, it sticks.
Sticky. Yeah. Pulling it makes it sticky. Pull, wrap, pull. And this also kind of covers it covers the little tips of the horn of the wire, so that you don't have to worry about that. I'm going to do the same thing with both little hooves. So I'm just going to wrap it. Hardly takes any floral tape at all. I'm just rolling this so that it gets kind of tight and it sticks. So this is just setting ourselves up so that our wool, because we're applying very small amounts of wool, that we will have more success in getting it to stay on there with minimal felting, because they are really small. You want your arms and your little hooves to be very slender and delicate looking. So that helps. The floral tape helps. It really wants to be in one continuous length. I've gone back and tried to add more on, and then sometimes it'll just fall off. So if you can get it in one continuous length, that would be better. And so here he is. He's going to be dancing soon. All right.
So if your legs are getting too short, Joyce, you're saying they should just wrap the wires more loosely.
Yeah, twist the wires a little bit looser so that you can see how these are really long twists. They're not super tightly coiled up. Like this is it's a good twist. It's just really a lot of twisting.
Gotcha.
So the more that you twist, the shorter your little pan person will be, which is fine. You can make them have a big head and they can be like a little baby one.
Have fun.
Now we can get started putting the skin tone and building the the upper torso of our pan person.
You make it look so easy.
It doesn't take very much to cover the horns. So you're just going to need a little bit of wool. This is the Burke shaft, and I'm probably going to end up pulling a lot of this off. You just kind of like, it's just a gauge of how much you're going to use. We've got that little bit of floral tape on here, and you want to just kind of wrap it pretty tightly. Because it's such a small thing, you're not going to be able to needle felt this a whole lot. So you just want to keep wrapping, pull, and as I wrap, I'm pulling. So when I get to the end, I'm going to pull off all of my little tiny bit, and I'm going to kind of roll this in my finger just to give it kind of some staying power.
When you use something like batting, this batting is crimpy. It's more likely to grab onto itself than if you use something straight.
Really well with the grabbing onto this. If you need to secure it, you can use a fine needle and just tack it a little bit at the base and at the tip.
Right, so you're just anchoring the two ends.
Just kind of anchoring the two ends, exactly. And because we're going to put either the cold wax or the tacky glue over it, it's going to get all sealed up, so it won't matter. So this is how you make the little horn marks. And of course I chose a gray, so I'm using a gray on this contrasting dark brown wool. And you just wrap it in a little spiral.
That's darling.
And once again, if you have some on the end, you're just going to use some scissors. This is staple. I wouldn't try pulling it off because the staple length is quite strong and you'll end up just pulling your whole spiral off. And then once again, you can kind of tack it down with your fine needle. You really only want to use like just a few fibers for that. This one it's kind of a thick one. And then you can bring in a little bit of the tacky glue. So I'm just going to put a tiniest little drop on my finger and use that to secure just the tip for now, just because I don't want it rolling off when I go to build the other horn. And once again, I'm going to take just a little bit and I'll show you again how I wrapped this. So I'm holding it with my thumb as I wrap it. And after you do a couple of these, you'll kind of get that feeling for how thick you want your horn shaft to be and how much you need to kind of pull it off at the end. So just give it a little twist. The friction of your hands actually is felting it as you go.
So it looks like the key is to wrap it really tight.
Really tightly, yeah. And use tiny amounts. So this is just, I'm pulling this little bit of staple. And once you kind of like, you can give it a little twist in your hands, you'll see it's almost like a little thread. And of course, a thread would actually work in this case if you don't have anything that's long stapled. And just giving that a similar little bit. And this one I did break off because I forgot I just said not to break it off. But, you know, needs must. And then I'm just going to needle felt this just at the base. And you don't have to worry. We're doing this first because when we do this first, then you're going to build your head around these horns. So these will it'll all be hidden inside, and you'll actually end up hiding the base of these horns inside of your head. That's why you want them a little bit long. So if you want to make some really crazy horns, keep in mind that you should use more of that floral wire to make it longer, because these ones will make like a kind of a modest horn, you know,
right?
But very doable. Like these ones I like this. This is a good size. So, but if you want some crazy antelope spirals, you can
make the wire
longer. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I like to do the horns and the hooves in the same color. And so I'm going to do them at the same time. So now I'm going to go down to my little floral tape wrapped hooves. I'm going to start on the ankle, give that just a tiny bit of a wrap, and then pick a hoof claw, and go all the way down, and then cross over, and then all the way down the next one, and then you can cross over back at the ankle. So you're really gonna stop at the ankle. And these I will use liberally, this tacky glue. This keeps it from coming off the end. So between the floral tape and this glue, these are not moving and they get that little hard hoofness. And then when you actually go to pose them, you're going to pinch them more together. They're wide apart right now so that you can work with them. But when you actual goat hooves are actually close together.
Sure. So yeah, the glue's going to make them really durable over time, right? Perfect.
The same thing, we'll just demonstrate. I'm just going to start at the ankle. All these little tiny fibers get stretched out. I'm going around the ankle and then around the hoof and then back up, back around the ankle. And if it gets a little thick, thin it out a little bit.
Just by pulling on it,
Just by
right?
drafting it out. Exactly. And then all the way down to the tip and then back up to the ankle. And that little tiny bit gets wrapped around. And needle felt just at that base of that ankle to hold that on. The nice thing about the tacky glue is you can just rub the excess off on a little cloth or on your, kind of rub your fingers and it comes right off. One of the important things to remember is that when you've wrapped your hooves, twist it in the same direction. Because sometimes if you start twisting and forget which way you wrapped it, you'll just untwist it and it'll come right off. Yeah. So now we have our little horns done and our hooves done, and we're going to put the cold wax on. This is a PowerTex Power Wax. And if you don't have this product, you can always use the tacky glue in a 50-50 percentage mixture and then just put it on the same way and let it dry. So the nice thing about this Power Cold Wax is that it dries really fast. So even though we'll be working on this project, it'll dry. So, and it looks like it's super wet, but it's not really.
It's more like a little paste.
It kind of feels like
shiny paste.
It feels like Pond's cold cream is what it feels like. It looks like it'll make it pale, but it actually does not.
And how long does it take to dry, Joyce?
I think it takes like 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
It could just
Very fast.
Could just be the really hot, low humidity we're having, but it dries pretty fast. So I'm just doing his little hoovesies too. And hoovesies is a technical term.
I'm going to put that in my notebook.
Sure. And this is maybe a good time to pinch them together just so that they're more cloven hoof-like. So now we've got them ready to go. To make the head, we're going to wrap it a little ball. And if you've made little Waldorf fairies before, or the little faceless people, it's the same way. You're going to make it the same way. So a lot of people do it however they're going to do it. I have a particular way that I like to do it. And I like to start by rolling just a tiny little ball that I'm going to insert into my head area. Just kind of work his little head through here. And this just gives you something to stab into. So we're just going to put this is going to be our human half. So we're going to put this on the head right now. I don't really worry about trying to go all the way over the horns because we're going to needle felt this and it will kind of take care of itself. It just gets covered up.
Over.
Yeah, it folds over. I do want to try to maintain a little bit of a neck.
Yeah, having a little neck makes it look a little more graceful, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this is just a lot of the stabbing part. I want to get all this loose stuff. Like you have to contort him a little bit to fiddle with that. He looks a little pained at this point. So that's a good size. That's a good size head right here.
So this size head's maybe like the size of a little cherry tomato, or
yeah,
right?
or a really big grape.
A big, I think the same too. Yeah,
big grape, a cherry tomato. You can also like I said, there's some workarounds too. If you find that your head is too small at the end, you can always add a little bit more material in the form of a pillow face. So if I was going to make a pillow face, I would just roll it on my finger just like this and make like a little pad. And then you can put this pad over it and you needle felt all around it. And it makes it stick out just a little more. Like if you find that your hair has totally kind of come around the face too much and you don't have enough chin or face again, you can do that. So that's just an option. But I try to make it as kind of as big as I want. Though I have been known to add a little bit like another pad for the back of the head, just to give it some like a bouffant, like a bump it for your doll. So now we're going to do the arms, and these arms start kind of like the way that I did the horns, where I'm holding it in the center with my thumb, and that's what's anchoring it down. And then as I wrap the arm, I'm going to draft and wrap at the same time. And this one, I kind of want my arm to be, a little thick. I don't want it to be super, super skinny. So I'm kind of keeping all that wool material in the same area. And then I'm going to start working my way down to the little hands. And then as I get to the end, I'm going to pull off whatever extra and just keep wrapping it, just like you did for the horn and the hooves. And the friction of my hands is actually holding that on, and see how it's graduated. So it goes from a little bit thick at the upper arm and then down to the slender hand. So, and then I'm going to just twist, or you can just twist this little bit of extra base around the body, and that takes care of that part. So the same thing, I want to do it in the same direction. I'm very, very big on twisting in the same direction and making sure that I'm consistent as I do that. So I'm holding it. So even though I've turned him around, basically, I'm still going to be wrapping in the same direction. You just want to make sure that you get all of that little arm covered. And then this little base, I'm going to give him a little twist and then just incorporate that. I can see that his head isn't super smooth back here, so I probably will go back and smooth that out, but you don't have to worry about it. You can pick the better side for what his front will be. So, and then this will get covered by hair, so it won't really matter that much. So now we're going to work on the little bit of a torso, and this is a good place to put a lot of the little, if you have some extra little pieces, they can all get incorporated over here. So we're just going to wrap him. I do want a little bit longer. So I'm gonna crisscross over his shoulder, around, back over the other shoulder, and just kind of build up his little torso, or their torso. I just want to make sure that that's firmly on there and that he's as solid as you would like him. So just keep kind of working. You'll keep working him and working that area and getting him ship shape in no time.
So smooth and firm.
Smooth and firm, yeah. So it'll just take a little bit to kind of incorporate all of those little bits and stuff. So I'm only working down to this his little hip area, because this will all get covered with a contrasting material before we put the locks on. So you just want to continue until you feel like he's firm enough and completely covered. I did put a little bit of tacky glue on the tips of the hands to make sure that the fiber doesn't come off. So we're ready to build the little goatee half, and we're also going to use this wool to also build our ears and our tails, or just one tail. So we're going to start by kind of covering the, building up some material on the legs so that we can later cover those with locks, and the locks will also be our hair. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this wool. It's like 3 inches, and start on the pelvic area. Give that a couple of wraparounds, and then we're going to wrap the thighs. And you do want to be kind of generous because these are going to be like little thick thighs over here. So I'm going to put all of this wool on this thigh, and then get some more wool and work my way down over the knee. And then as I get down to the hock and the little hoof area, it's going to get a little bit thinner until it peters out. And I'm actually covering most of that little hoof just until I just want a little bit to stick out. So this is good. I'll probably go back with another pass, but we're going to clothe this little wire over here. So once again, I'm going to go around the pelvis and then just wrap around this thigh and knee. And then we're going to just cover that tiny bit. And if you find that your wire is not bent or gets unbent, you can just rebend it. So now it's just a matter of felting things into shape. Just kind of keep in mind that you want to make this thigh and knee area kind of flat almost, and you can add material as you need to. So I'm just going to add just a little bit more. And it's just a little bit of a you just kind of look to see what kind of thickness you want. It's one of those things where you're going to be like, you just kind of felt it until it feels and looks done. And then you don't want to go too thick because you are going to have more locks covering on here. But I do want them to be a little bit even.
So this fiber is just a base color, and then you're going to add texture on top.
The locks are going to provide a little texture. You will see this color you'll see it in the ears and the tail, and then these little legs. I don't usually cover the little legs. You can, but I just kind of
the thighs mostly.
The thighs, yeah. Wait. So I'm just kind of getting here in this chicken thigh area and just kind of give them a little stabs. If you feel like it's not quite thick enough, you can kind of give it like another little wrap around. I want them to have nice, thick little goatee legs. And you can kind of see how one looks a little thinner, and one is needs a little bit more meat upon his bones. So we're just going to give it another little bit of a wrap. And this stuff felt great. It's like doing little felting Pilates over here. So it helps if there's a little bit of that torso wool going a little bit farther down so that you can kind of marry them together. You don't want a place where they're, super separate and then.
Right. So better to have a little overlap.
Yeah. A little overlap is good.
He's already coming together. Gosh, there's going to be so many different color combinations you could choose, right? So really have a lot of fun with that.
It'll be really fun.
Now, I just want to ask real quick. So we didn't use the wax on the hands.
No. I put a little bit of, just a little bit of tacky glue on the end of the hands to mostly just to hold them together. And then if you're going to have them hold like accessories later, you might put a little hot glue on the item and then bend their hand around it so that they're holding it.
Oh, right.
That's another reason for maybe making their arms a little bit long. Now that we're going to make our ears and our tail, we've added a topper for the wow pad just so that we can use a multi-tool, and we're going to make, these are the ears and this is going to be the little tail. There's not a whole lot of difference between them except that I add a little bit of pink on the inside of the ear. And we're just going to make a flat. Oh, and I have my mini flat iron plugged in, if I hadn't said that before.
This is a really great job for that little, I call it the clacky tool, the clover. The clover does the clacky tool, but it's a good job for it, isn't it? Making little flat pieces.
It is so good at making the flat things, yeah. So you just want to turn it over a couple of times, and I like to do my little ears at the same time so that they're approximately the same size. And this may look a little bit large, but keep in mind that wool does felt down, so it felts a lot. And I'm just going to turn it over. So I'm going to take the multi-pen tool, and I just want to kind of coax the edges of this inward. And now I'm going to add just a little bit of this pinky skin tone to it. And it may come through a little bit on the other side, but if you felt it before, it's not going to show quite as much as if when you're adding it. If you felted it all together, it would come through a lot more. Be like more mixed on the other side. Just get it really a little bit more flat. Okay, so now I have my little ear just like this, and I'm going to take my handy little flat iron, which is hot, and kind of look at it, and I just want to flatten it out just a tiny bit. I'm holding it at the base and kind of pinching it into a little, what is that?
Like a leaf.
Yeah, like a leaf.
Or petal.
Yeah, like exactly. So like I've got this little petal, and you can see the contrast. See how much nicer it looks?
It really does. Yeah. It's like, well, we press things that we wet felt too. And
so nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to flat iron on a purse once, on the sides of a purse. Yeah.
Oh, I've been known to do, like, especially after I do the locks on the legs, I've been known to press their little thighs like that.
Interesting.
I know, it's just kind of a fun little thing to do. Okay. So I think that's probably good. And if you wanted to shape it a little bit with a scissor, you could give him a little, like this one's maybe not as pointy, or kind of get that little bit of extra off. So I'm just cutting those little tiny imperceptible hairs at the very end of the of the ear. So these are our ears, and we'll set those aside right there. And we'll just give our tail the same kind of treatment, but without adding the pink. So we're just going to make the little leaf shape and coax it into that little petal shape. So, and that came together quite quickly, I think.
Each of the little parts seem to come together pretty quick. They're just a series of little tiny parts. Details that make it just so precious.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next step is to attach these little guys. So we'll do his little tail first. I'm going to pull off just some extra so he doesn't have a lot of tail on his booty. So I'm holding it upwards. You want his little tail to flare out like a deer's tail or a goat tail. And then I'm just going to fill all this extra material down into his little bum. And you don't have to worry about any joins or anything like that because it'll get covered with the locks when we felt the locks over this, and the tail will stick out. And I just want to kind of bend it just a tiny bit to bend it down to make sure it's attached up here at the top. I'm just kind of pinching it so that it has that little crease. And you can also flat iron it when it's back here too. I don't know if I trimmed the tail. And then now for the ears. And I put the ears go on just underneath the horns. So they're going to go just right here. And then all this material is going to go in the back of the head. And it'll get covered by the hair.
But the ears and the hair don't have to be the same color, right? Because you put on a volume. Yeah, they can be similar or they can be
similar
different.
or different. Yeah. I'm going to use some orangey red-haired ginger locks. So this is kind of like a copper base. So it's going to give it a nice contrast. So I've got one little ear attached. You can see, even though they look quite large, they're like really no bigger than my thumbnail. So, and then kind of just stick it on the other side, pinch, and then put all that material on the back of the head to hold that ear in place. It's probably a little overkill, but I'd rather have more to, you're going to cover it up, so it's not going to matter. And it'll hold the ear. Just kind of straighten his little head out again. There he is. He's working on it. Oh, I'm going to take care of this little area right here. So he's got his little ears and his tail. Now he's ready for the locks. All right, so we've got some of our lock choices, and I'm going to show you like an alternative that you could do. So you could do like a darker one and contrast. And this one I would just tease out, and I would put it just like this, just from the waist all the way down to this little hawk area right there. And I would needle felt all of this on there in one go. And then when you do stuff like this and you have a little tip, you get these little kind of blonde or gold tips at the end, which is really kind of cute. And you could just, it wouldn't take very many locks to cover the legs. If you needed a nut lock on the inside part of the leg, you could do that. But just a couple of locks would cover the whole thing. So here we've got these choices, and I think I'm going to actually use some of this to cut it a little bit, because it's a pretty long, it's long of the whole project.
For people who aren't familiar with locks, or they haven't, bought them as they come off the sheep. So this is the cut end, how they come off the animal. This is where they cut off the animal. This is its natural length, which we call the staple. And you're wanting the natural tips to be at the base of the leg. Is that right?
So, yeah. I think I want to cut it almost in half, since it is so long. And then we'll use the top of this maybe to do a little short curly hair.
I love it.
Curly hairdo so that you don't waste anything.
A true little ginger we're making.
Yeah, it'll be really cute. So I'm just going to kind of like, just kind of give it, cut that right there. Because I like all of these little color variations. So he's going to be a little flame foot.
That's cute. Flame foot.
So I'm going to take my little lock and then just tease it out just a tiny bit. So I'm using the multi-pen tool to kind of, with each stab, you kind of get to 3 times as much, power in there so that it actually kind of covers, it feels really good covering the wool. It covers a lot of territory. And it's really good for like kind of grabbing and making those little waves and curls in the texture. So I've got that one going on. I'll give another little, just a little teasing it out, and then just kind of keep going. I'm not really worried so much about this lower leg here because I know that that's just going to be right there. And I'm just going to work my way the inside of the leg and up.
It's such a cute addition of texture and maybe sheen really fun, and variegation.
Yeah, the dye, there was a lot of variegated tones and things, and you can choose which ones you want to highlight and use, and it really is fun. I'm just going to turn him over, and I'm coaxing all these little fibers. I'm kind of like your pen tool will grab onto those little fibers and just kind of drive them into the base, and that base wool will help with the application of the fibers. If you were trying to build up the material, this is just a different kind of material, so it's better to use some of that Maori or Berkshaft for that. So I got, look at how pretty these are.
They're darling.
Very fall. Yeah. He's going to be like a little fall. I can almost just like slip this in between so that you get a little bit more contrast. I feel like trying to contain them with my hands so that they don't get out of control.
Now, these aren't meant to be toys, right? They're meant to be little
displayed for like a nature table or like, look at and stuff. They're going to be kind of static. I tried putting them in like a bell jar, but they didn't like it in there. So my felted things don't like. They like to be free.
Yeah, they
looked like they wanted out. Like, yeah, they wanted to be free. They're just like little free nature spirits and stuff. So they're sculpture-y, and when we make the little stands, they can actually be posed and be very cute. So he looks like he's like Liberace over here with the furry pants. These locks are felting very easily, and these are fine needles in this pen, but if you needed to, you could use a single like strong needle to really get in there if you found like your locks didn't want to attach and stuff. And you just want to make sure you kind of cover all the little holes. So I'm just pulling down his little tail over here and getting the back area. I might come back in between with another lock. So I've got, these are the cut locks that we can use for the hair, and I think he's going to be so cute.
He's already cute, Joyce. Starting to develop a little personality.
They do. You could even come back in here with like little bits of white and make spots if you wanted, or you could do a paint, where you had big patches of black and white. So you could do all kinds of things. We're ready to add our hair, but first I've got to address the fact that his head's gotten a little smaller after all that pressing and putting the ears on, and we're kind of going a little bit birdie over here. So we want to just give him a little bit more of some material to work with. So I'm going to do that pillow face I talked about earlier. And this is how I would do it. I would just take a little bit of wool And you could roll it on a skewer if you wanted, or another tool, but this is how I just do it with my finger. So I'm just going to make this little kind of a pillow, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of a fold. And you could use this either horizontally or vertically. So depending on which way you would want it to go. So if I put it on this way, I'm going to use this needle, then he'll have a little bit more of a square face. And then if you put it on the other way, he would have a longer face. So I'm just going to felt all the way around the edges because I want to retain the puffiness in the center. So I'm just holding it down with my finger and kind of giving it just a little bit of a go all the way around. And this helps also if you want yours to look more like a child, like give them a little bit bigger head and they will look more childlike. And if I needed to, I could add some more material on the back of the head, but I don't think it's necessary. So he's got a little bit more of a rounded head, and I'm going to take some of that material that I had cut off from my locks and kind of select it. And when you're making like a little short hair, probably the easiest hairstyle to do is the kind of short curly hair, because you're just going to use the locks. And I'm going to start by kind of felting the locks just above the ear and in front of the horn. And I'm going to kind of do an imaginary part in the middle. So I want some of this to hang down, but I want to cover up that little ear, and this will cover up any of the little seams that you're having too. So I've got his little locks right here. I'm just going to pull these apart. You might want to turn it around. That's kind of good right there. Just position it where you want. And by poking it, you'll feel the resistance where those, I want to say bones, but where the wires are, where the horns are. And you just want to poke in front of the ear all the way around. And you can find your two favorite locks to kind of hang in front of his little ear and in front of his horn. And you want to add more than you think you need because you can always trim them afterwards. And these are just the perfect kind of 2 to 3 inch length right here. My pen tool again. So I'm almost like kind of shoving the locks back up onto the head, just the little tail ends of them, so that it can look like, gives them some volume and makes it look full. And because it's going to be like a little boy pan, that's cool. I like to use, you can get really elaborate. You can do long hair, or it's like a little girl with short hair. So you can get kind of elaborate with different kinds of hair and stuff.
He's looking really cute.
I know, so cute.
Just like that. Now there's so much potential just to really dress him up or give him a job, something to do. But he's really cute, even just right now, Joyce.
Thank you. I think he came out really cute. I like the little gingerness.
Joyce, I love all the variety of hairstyles that you have, from just doing locks to doing fiber, right? Whatever kind of fiber. And I know here we've only demonstrated one, but people can. We have a hairstyle video, I think, where we did some of our dollies or maybe our gnomes.
It's very similar to that, where like this one is a kind of a silk viscose one, and this one you would add, in those ranks, just like on that hairstyling video. Here, I did the braids do your braids before you put them on.
Right.
And I'll tell you a trick is I attach the braids like you attach the ears, and then you put another piece over to kind of cover it. So it just looks like it's all one piece, but really you do the braids before. There's some, if you have some exotic fiber, like this is Icelandic, but it's only the inners part of the Icelandic. So it's really soft and fluffy, and alpaca would work the same way.
Right.
So
super cute. So lots of options for hair.
Cute little hairstyles. Before moving on to accessorizing and the stand, we're going to style his horns. So just decide what shape you want them, and you can do this if you wanted something a little bit more elaborate, or you didn't want to bend it with your finger. You can use the skewer to kind of wrap the horn just ever so slightly around, not pointing in the same direction. So here we have a little twist, and then you could also bend them into a little bit of more of a spiral if you wanted. That I might do. If you wanted a really sharp spiral, you might be able to take the pliers and then just hold them and bend them into like the ram's horn, classic ram's horn shape. These ones are a little bit small for like a good ram's horn. That's what I was talking about. When you make them longer, you can have more curls. So, or you can go with the classic, we're going to call it the alpine, which is the classic backswept horns. Just like that. So there was several ways to style your horns. These are just a few of the horn styles. This was like the little curly Q one. And then I'm going to call this the kind of crazy antelope style, where these are really long. And I did that on the skewer to get that shape. And then here's another one in a smaller, just pinch them when they're on the skewer. You just kind of pinch them close together. And then we'll call this the kind of Spanish goat style. So where they're flared out. We're going to make a pan pipe for him to hold. Just about an inch. We're going to cut off little pieces of this bamboo skewer. I'm just going all the way around the bamboo to the skewer to kind of pre-cut it. And I'm just, going to cut it and whoops. And then it'll bounce off over that way somewhere. So we just cut smaller pieces, just subsequently smaller little pieces. So this one, I'm just going to mark where my thumb is. I just want to make them just a tiny bit smaller than the one before. So don't overthink it. And then it should break off. If you wanted it to be super smooth, you could get a little nail file and file the ends. And then just break it off. And that last little tiny bit is the smallest one. So then we're going to glue these together. These ones were glued together with tacky glue. This little process is just a little bit messy. I'm just stacking them up, putting a tiny bit of glue on there, trusting it will all dry clear. And just make sure that the top is aligned. I'm just going to kind of pet the glue there, and then I'm just going to let it sit here and let it dry. So we have our little bamboo flute that we've, or pan pipe that we have glued together. And I'm just take a little Sharpie or permanent marker or paint pen and coloring it. This one is gold, but you can use whatever color you want. Really, it's just what I happen to have on hand. I like silver too. Silver makes them look good. So this one is gold. And you want to make sure that it's completely dry so that it shows up that the glue is dry. And then I'm going to take this black Sharpie And I'm just going to color the very tips of it. You could also put some holes, flute holes on here, or lines. Sometimes you'll see panpipes, they have little lines holding them together where the reeds have been held together. We're just going to put some finger holes on here. So now we have a little pipe. And we're going to attach this to our pan person using hot glue. So you want him to be holding it kind of like this, or like he's going to bring it up to his mouth. If he had a mouth, just like this. So I'm going to put the little glue. I just want his little hand to marry onto there. When it's dry, you can come back and kind of clean up all these little glue strings. And that's all there is to it for that one.
What a cute little prop for him. I mean, and what a clever way to make it so fast and easy. And, I like how you covered all the bamboo with the gold Sharpie just to give it a little depth and interest.
Depth and extra.
Yeah.
You could paint them too if you wanted to paint them.
And now, you brought a bunch of little tchotchkes that seem like cute little accessories. Maybe we can just look at a few to plant some seeds and ideas for y'all.
Just like some yarn and like little bits of fiber. Like this is a good thing for all your little fiber bits, Here's this one's holding a little shell, and the same thing. I just put a little bit of glue on the shell and then attach the hand on there.
Yeah, that shell is darling. So cute. Because she could be playing the shell.
Really
or
cute.
he.
Yeah. And so this is like a little bottle filled with little beads, and actually some of these glow in the dark. Here's a colored one, and then this one, we were thinking of things you could put in there. You could put in neps and different things. It would be very, very cute.
Miniature glitter. Mm-hmm. Little bits of fiber, maybe. So cute. And would you just glue those on also, or string them up? Maybe?
I would definitely make sure that the cork is glued in, just so it doesn't come out, because it'll pop right off. And then maybe put a little piece of ribbon or wool around the mouth of around here, or once it's glued in, you could attach it to the little eye post that's right here, and then hang it from a little sash on their belt.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Which would be a good way to do that. Or they could hold it, you just have to bend the little hand a little bit more so that it's in a little cup. And then they could hold their flask, but there's all kinds of different things they could be doing.
That's cute. So Joyce, you'd mentioned we could use something like our sari silk ribbon to add to clothing.
Yeah,
how would we do that?
This would be great. So what I would do, and this little bit of ribbon right here is just perfect. So we're just going to cut the tiniest bit off. If I wanted to decide that this was a little girl one, and I could just make a little modesty band just like this,
cute.
And then maybe glue it in the back or pinch it and bring it forward into like a little bow. If we wanted to make a little sash for the waist, this would be really cute. And I would just kind of tug it down just like this.
Oh, angled. That looks really cute, doesn't it?
And then give it a little bit of a knot. I'm just going to take some of these extra little threads and wrap them around. And silk is just really strong, so it just doesn't take very much. And then I would actually cut this into little shreds so that you have more little pieces.
Frayed,
yes.
That's darling. You could just really let the supplies that you have in front of you just inspire you along.
Look at that. That would be so cute. And then you could add a little bottle down here. He's got his little
that's
pan
a great
pipes.
idea.
He is ready for the Bacchanal. So he's ready to go.
He is so darling and just really has come to life with just those few little additions.
Mm-hmm.
Handmade pan pipe, a little tiny bit of ribbon, and a cute little jar, which we should fill before we glue it shut.
Yeah. Well, that'd be cute. Put some little neps or a little bit of glitter in there. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
After you fill your jar with whatever you like, you can just put a little bit of glue around the cork and stick it back in, and you're ready to go.
And now you have some that have like cute little wreaths in their hair and garlands.
Here's a little jar where
that's fantastic.
So this was like, this isn't yarn, but I actually just spun that in my hands and made a little twist so that it caught on the neck of the bottle right here, and then it's on his little waist.
That is so darling. And this one, these both have these cute little wreaths in their hair.
And I made these wreaths a couple of different ways. So this one is made with the little bit of ribbon or string, and then this one's made with a little bit of wire.
Oh, right. It comes off. It comes off and on. Let's look at that.
Yeah.
It's a cute little, that's
so this
darling.
One's just one of those little kind of tail end of your Chanel stem or your floral wire. And I didn't make it close all the way so that you can wrap it around. And then you just take like one little lock or a couple little locks and give it a little wrap and poke it with some needles. You know, you could do the same thing with this fun yarn and wrap it around a little bit of wire stem. So, and then it just slips on over their horns. And then some of these I've just tacked some locks into their hair. So this one, I just put some locks, like she's got some flowers and greenery in her hair.
It's so darling. And she's pregnant, right?
She's a pregnant one.
You gave her a
little pregnant belly.
Modesty top, like you said.
The little modesty tops are just like little bits of locks, and I just felt them on the pad and then just apply them. They're so tiny. It's like one little lock, really. Sometimes they don't even go all the way around. Like this one does. It's just a little bit of greenery going on the back all the way around. But really, I just wanted the fun kind of wisteria bra in the front.
That's really cute. And matches her.
It matches her hair and
headband.
Her stand. So this is not attached to her. This is a little stand that she's in.
Right. So that's the kind of the next thing, right? Is to make their stand.
We're going to build a little stand for him. And fortunately, we've got this nice bullseye right here. So, and it's just a little bit offset, which I think will be perfect. This isn't a very thick piece of wood, so we'll see how this works. And I'm going to try to use this all. You also can use a drill, and this is pretty soft. So I'm just kind of going through here and giving it a little go. I have another piece of wood already, it's already through.
That's amazing. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very strong awl or a tiny drill bit.
Or a tiny drill bit. Yeah. And even though this isn't very big, the floral wire will be strong enough to hold him up in there. So we have a half of a floral wire, and that's going to be just enough to stick in here. We're going to cover this and make a little vine that will stand up. So if I was doing it on this one actually goes all the way through, and you could bend it over and then put a little felt bottom on there to cover it up. That would be one way to do it. I think I'm going to cover the vine, and since it's kind of stuck in there, so I don't think it'll take much to stick it in there, to leave it and let it stay in there. So I'm going to cover the vine with whatever I have to hand over here. So I've got some greenery, I've got some locks, I've got some yarn. I'm going to use one strand of this and a couple strands of the green. And I think I want some floral tape. I'm going to leave just the tiniest bit down here. Made it to the end of the wire. Okay. You could also do this with locks. So I'm just going to make a little vine. See how I'm just holding it? I'm just wrapping it and holding it, and it's giving it this really natural looking, really cool looking little vine over here. Now for the end, I want to take my plier and kind of bend over this little tip I might even go back and tie this in a little knot. And then the scissors can be used to cut off this excess. And I'm going to take some of this other little bit of greenery right here, and I'm just going to put a couple of dabs of hot glue in a couple of different places and put my greenery on. So let me move this aside. I've got the glue mat right here, the glue gun, and I'm just going to kind of randomly choose a couple of little places. And then I'm just going to take the little bits of blocks and wrap them around. You always want to remember that hot glue is hot, and don't touch it. Don't touch it. I'm always touching it when I don't want to touch it. Mostly on the little bit of the ends right here. So I've just got my little bit of a vine going right there, and I'm going to stick this into the wood, and I'm going to show you how we can build up a little bit of a base and kind of cover whatever is showing and kind of a little bit of foliage. Really kind of free form. It's really like whatever you want to do, but you have to do it before you attach it, because once you attach it with the hot glue, you can't really needle felt it anymore.
It's like you're just making a little nature mount.
Making like a little, yeah, a little nature, you know, the more kind of variation and foliage and different things. And then this is just going to lend a little bit of interest to around the base and kind of hide anything that we need to hide with that little bit of, I'm just gonna, so I actually made like a little loop right here. So whatever went into whatever wire went into here, then I made a little loop just to give it some kind of a place to stick to. And then I'm gonna just put this around here, and then you can felt it as much as you like before, and then when you're ready, you can hot glue it on. Put the hot glue on the wood and then put the wool around it.
So that's really clever, that bending of the wire there, that gives it a really stable little footing.
It does, yeah. Even though the wood isn't very thick, like this one's really thick, and then those acorns are super like hollow. So the acorns have there's a whole loop of wire in there that I twist. Just want it to look like little vines crawling on the ground.
Yeah, they could add anything they want. Some little rocks, some of our other found treasures from the ground.
This would be a good place for like Angelina, some neps, you know, anything to make it look a little naturey.
Acorns.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where's our little?
We have a little treasure trove.
Our little bit of acorns. There's a little bit of sphagnum.
Joyce and I are both gatherers.
I love gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So just in a few minutes, we've managed to make, you know, a little bit of ground right here.
Just a moment of thanks for whoever invented hot glue.
Hot glue and wool, it loves it. It loves it.
It's so fast.
I'm gonna put this little tiny bit of stick that right there. And you can always come back and put more, you know, just want that initial little stick. And then this little kind of quasi treat, we're just gonna set Mr. Ginger in here and let him stand.
That's fantastic. Wow, just around his leg like that, whereas some of these you've made elaborate and really tall.
Yeah.
But that just around his leg is just so sweet. And then he can come off his stand if you want him to.
You can, yeah. I mean, because we need to play with these things.
You have to pick
we said don't play with them, and then we're unless you want to rearrange, you can put him in the classic Coco Pele position. That's like another little goat-footed musical deity.
Such a cute way to make a stand for our little pan guy. But Joyce, you have some other really sweet stands here. So talk us through them a little bit in case they're finding stuff where they live.
Yeah, a lot of them are made out of these ridiculously large bur oak acorns. So this one is a bur oak acorn that's really big. You don't have to be that big. Like here's one with a little tiny bur oak acorn. And then I just did that same kind of made a little piece of ground, and whatever comes to hand, I just kind of felt it in and then hot glued it down. It's really nice to use like these brown natural locks. They look like roots. And then you just make a little bit of earth. And this one was just one long floral wire, but I drilled 2 holes. Here's a naked one with 2 holes in it. And you just put that up there, wrap your little trees and make these little twists like they've been twisted by the wind, So that's kind of the idea around these. And this one's on a little slice of wood. And then they act as kind of a way to make your little person stand up.
So cute. And so if you had 2 holes here, then you would run the wires up like a fork, like a loop. So
we can demonstrate.
Sure.
So this one I would just take it like this, and these were drilled holes. So you can pull it through, and this because you'll have to pull this one through, and then there's a little loop at the bottom that it's hard to see. So this is the little loop, and I just give that kind of a little twist wherever I want this to stop. And then that will act as kind of a little barrier to keep it from getting pulled out. And you can twist it. I would put like a little ball of wool in here that's kind of firm felted so that you have a little something for it to glue onto. So you could really just hot glue that little ball of wool in there. And then because these are still pretty light, I give them like a little base. I find a little piece of slice of wood that acts as like a little stopper. You could also use like a slice of cork or something like that. And just so under here is like a little bit of wool that the hot glue grabs onto that allows this to be hot glued in. And it also gives you a nice place to sign if you're going to sign it.
Oh, that's cute. Sign on the bottom. All right. So that's an example of just putting the wool around the wire.
A little wool. Yeah, it's just kind of pushed against that wire and kind of looped there. And it just gives it a little place. So now you have all of this to work with. And this is just kind of like, same thing. Wrap it, hot glue it, and bend the little tips back, and you're got yourself a little tree.
So clever.
They look like little cypress trees, or they're very windswept.
Right. And so this is just a smaller little wood.
Yeah. And it's just
wood slice.
It's just a little like one wire and stuff. And
just adorable, Joyce. And everyone is going to be original, right? Everyone will be unique.
Everyone is so different because you just never know what you're going to have. This one has a little Angelina on it. This one, it's got this like moss. This one has like 3 different wires coming out.
You could have a little mushroom.
You could have tiny mushrooms or little rocks or little treasures, whatever you found.
I can't wait to see what people make.
I know. I love it. That's going to be so great. I want to see little dancing pans all over the place.
It's going to be a pan party.
A pan party. The Bacchanal.
The Bacchanal. Joyce, these are just so darling and so whimsical and absolutely magical.
Thank you.
Really,
I'm pretty happy with how he came out.
Yeah, me too.
Little dancing pan people.
Joyce, this has been such a fun project to watch. One, just to see all of your ideas and all of the different ways you can bring these little beings to life. But what a great little process you've created.
Yeah, thank you. They're really fun to make, and there's so many possibilities. And every time you just come up with like a little different horn twist or a different accessory or a different hairstyle. You find just the right lock. So, there's so many different things you can do with them.
I think it's going to be a real treat to see what our friends make as a result of this idea. Even given the same colors or the same textures, they're going to come up with something with completely different personality.
Exactly. And they're so rewarding. They're just, they might seem like a lot of work, but they come out very rewarding, and I think they're super fun to do.
I think you've broken it down into really doable little steps. It actually doesn't even take that long. It would be a super fun fall party for someone to get some friends together and make them, or a family project. Great for a nature table. We can't wait to see what you all make, and we hope that you'll share them in our group, LivingFelt Friends. Follow Joyce on social media at Joyce Hazlerig on Instagram. But look, if you want more from her, check out her dragon class in the school, feltingtutorials.com. So fun. And wait till you see all the dragons people have made using her methods.
I'm so impressed by everybody's dragons. They're amazing.
They are amazing. So many different colors you could choose, so many personalities, just like the Pan people. So we hope you'll check that out, and we look forward to seeing you next time.